Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. Today's talk is from Mike Ulmer, and he's the founder and CEO of Catapult Book Writing. And it's going to be a fantastic story about those thought leaders, influencers that want to create a brand, write a book, market their brand through the book. And we're going to talk all about the process and what you can do with the book. So, Mike, welcome.
Christopher, thank you for having me. Thrilled to be with you today.
Yeah, I know. I'm always interested in people on the cutting edge, influencing the thought landscape, being leaders, building a following. So tell people your story and what you do, and we'll get into it.
Oh, sure. So my name is Mike Ulmer, as you probably see. My website just changed over to Mike Ulmer. I didn't remember to give you the note, but my story is journalism. I did journalism for 30 years. I sort of traveled the world as a sports writer. I wanted to become a sports writer. I know you were in Canada recently, in Vancouver. So in Toronto, the big team was the Toronto Maple Leafs. And when I was a kid, I wanted to cover them. And I did. I covered them for newspapers for about 15 years here in Canada. And I wrote a children's book that's in every library. I'm so enormously proud of that book called M is for Maple, which is a book about the alphabet in Canada. And so I had a great career. And then I worked over to the team side. I worked for the team, the club people that own the Maple Leafs and Raptors. And then I got out of that and I started thinking what I wanted my next move to do. And I joined a group. I joined Business Networking International. I know they've got offices all over the country. And what I was really struck was there's so many people that are entrepreneurs. I didn't even know it's like this subculture of people I didn't even think about. I just assumed I was going to have a job every day for the rest of my life. And then I went to these meetings and I met these people, and they're really bright, hardworking, earnest, engaged people. And I really fell in love with the entrepreneurial life. So I started talking to them and learning about them. And I found out the one thing that many of them were missing was that sort of story they needed to tell every day for the rest of their life, because it's so important, because that's the centerpiece of for example, your social media. If you have that one sentence, what you're about, why you're different, why it matters to you, it's so powerful, because it can be in an elevator speech, it can be in a speaking gig, it can be in your social media, it can be when you're just talking to people. It's so essential to focus in on finding what that thing is. And so I was really surprised that no one knew theirs. I mean, nobody knew their thing at all, like what they're about, why they did it, why it mattered to them, what their experiences were, what their insight was that nobody else had. And so I said, okay, this is what I want to do. So I help people write their books. Sometimes I sort of ghostwrite it, although I don't say ghostwrite, because if I'm writing one of your books, you're going to be so sick of me. Ghostwriters just generally go and write and come back. I'm not that way, man. If Christopher, if I'm writing your book, you're going to hate me by the end of it, because I'm going to pester you to get the very best book out. And then the other thing I do is, at a different price point, is we help people get their books out. We give you 100 days. I call it a 100-day boot camp, and the no bullshit boot camp, because we're going to get you that transcript in 100 days. And first thing we're going to do is I sort of have a system that goes into every great business book, every great story you need to tell for the rest of your life. You and I are going to work on it. We're going to work on it. We're going to work on it until we get it right. And then we're going to pull the clock, and then we're going to give you 100 days, and you can call me or one of my coaches as often as you like, every day if you want to, but we're going to get that thing done after 100 days.
I love that. And, you talked about some of the benefits. Basically, it's a platform, so it can be a lead magnet, you can build your brand, you get speaking, consulting, you get employment, you get clients. So it's really, people don't, usually I was reading a statistic, most people don't make money off the books unless you're like.
It's one of those crazy things where the fact that you've done it is like 95. Actually, that's not true. The fact that you've done it is like 95% of the efficacy. Only 5% of the people are going to read your book. But the fact that you've done it means that 95% of people that know that will think more of you. But the 5%, you better have a good book. But tell people, the crazy thing is we drill down and we talk about stuff that maybe you didn't think really mattered. The rule we have is if you wrote the book you thought you were going to write, you wrote the wrong damn book. Because that was your outline, that was your idea. But the process of writing a book is revelatory. We go back and so stuff that you didn't think was really important turns out was important. And threads of your life that you had never really connected, turns out they're connected. And so we always come out with an experience for our clients that is revelatory because now they have clarity. They know where they've been. They know why they chose where they are. They know why they do it better than anybody else, and they know where they want to go. So I tell people, look, I'm going to charge you $25K or $6,000 US if I work with you the book, and I'm going to charge you that for the clarity, and I'll throw the book in for free.
That's a huge upsell, which brings us to the next question is and you talked about the process of writing a book and why writing a business book is easier than you think. Most people think it's like, oh my God, I have to like spend years and years, but talk about how it's easier than one puts it out to be.
For one thing, it's nowhere as long as you think it has to be. Most people think that a business book has to be 200, 300, 400 pages. Man, no, man. That's between 125 and 150 pages. That's 20,000 words. If you can't say it in 20,000 words, I don't know what we're talking about. Maybe astrophysics. So, that's the thing. The second thing is, for every client we have, we've already really worked on this. We've drilled down on their story. And then what we do is we give them the transcript so they can look at their own words. And it's almost like a cut and paste if you want to, because you can give yourself. So we give you a suggested 10 chapters. And you can follow that or not follow that, but you have that easily we'll give you 6,000, 8,000 words in the transcript. So you can almost let's say you only use 1 out of every 4 words. You're still knocking off a quarter or an eighth of that book or just by almost, pasting and clipping. So the duration, the fact that it doesn't have to be that long, the fact that you have a lot of copy to work with. And the third element is the blueprint. Like, you know where you're going to go. We've talked about it. You know where your message is now. That when you're sitting at the keyboard sort of trying to figure something out, that's not what you do with us. We've already figured it out with you.
Yeah, I love that. Next question I have is, what are the 3 pillars of every great business book?
Oh, thank you for that. So if you look at any great book, any great business book, and maybe even any great book, there's 3 elements. There's a great proposition, what we call the proposition. And the proposition is something that's really counterintuitive, but something that's a really powerful, alluring truth. Like the 4-Hour Work Week. That book is a genius book. The 4-hour, who would not want to read a book about a 4-hour work week? It's impossible not to want to read it, right? It's such an arresting proposition. But there's all sorts of arresting propositions. There's the new book, Quit, which is a great business book about the fact that, maybe you want to reconsider how you do things. Like the genesis, the thought of that book, Christopher, let me ask you this question. What's the goal of a mountaineer?
To get to the top of the mountain.
Wrong, buddy. The goal of the mountaineer is to get back to the bottom. That's the goal of the mountaineer. That's the genesis. That's the 1-sentence summation of that great book, Quit. There's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Who would not want to read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People? And that book is just a recitation of the golden rule. I mean, it's a brilliant, magnificent, my favorite business book. So that thing, that hook, that can be either a great idea or a great fact. So if I can I give you a demonstration of what a great hook is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Great. Thanks. Let's say you were in, and you understand finance, Christopher. So I'll ask you this question. So let's say you were in estate planning in the United States, and time after time after time, people came to you with these crazy plans because they don't want to pay any inheritance tax, right? People hate paying tax, and they don't want to pay, in particular, inheritance tax, which feels particularly odious, right? So they have other people that are beneficiaries. They give people a property on the condition that it comes back. They do this, they do that. And of course, what happens is after they die, it is an absolute madhouse. And the family that they were trying to preserve fragments because things haven't been done right. And there's so much bias shown. And, there's that great line from Moneyball. It's not the money, it's what the money says. And so there's all this friction and conflict. And all this was done because the person with the estate wanted to avoid paying an inheritance tax. Now, here's your question, Chris. Based on 100 deaths in the United States, according to the IRS, how many generate an inheritance tax?
I have no idea. Percentage-wise, I would. Okay, I got it. Maybe 10% or less. That's my guess.
We're guessing 0.05, less than 1%.
Yeah.
You're writing a book on estate planning, and you said, don't wreck your family for a tax that you're never going to have to pay.
Yeah.
That's a great proposition. And that's not necessarily a new truth. But if you're the first one out telling that truth, then yours is the only story that counts. Right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so that's perfect. So the second part is you have to tell the story that you encountered on your way to that truth. It shouldn't be something you just woke up one day and went, I just discovered this yesterday. You tell a story about how you've been a financial planner, why you became a financial planner. And because maybe I've talked to people that are in financial planning because they felt economically insecure as children, and they didn't like it. And they decided that when they were going to, maybe in finance, they were going to actually, help themselves and then help other people avoid that uncomfortable feeling. But you have to tell the story, and then you tell the story about how funeral after funeral, you sat there and you went, okay, that guy's going to be fighting that guy, and that woman's going to be angry at that woman, and they come in every single day, and every single day I try to tell them, and every single day they don't listen. And so there's always these, I don't know if you've ever seen a fight at a funeral home. They're fantastic. Because everything's boiled up, bottled up, and then they go boom, and it's very, very fun to watch if you like that sort of thing. So, so the backstory, the powerful backstory that brings you to that, how you figured that out, the purpose of the backstory is it gives more credibility to your conclusion because you want to know that someone walked miles, right? You want to have that feeling that it took a while for them to get it because when you observe the backstory, it's far more powerful if you realize that the person had to walk the miles. So you've got the great proposition, you've got the great backstory that validates the proposition, and at the end, you have ideas, you have tips, you have hacks, you have all sorts of things. If you brought these people that far, you've explained to them why this is important. Don't just leave them hanging there. Ideas, things that you did, things that you learned. Be generous with your reader, and they will be generous with you. So those are the three elements that are, I think if you look at any great business book, you'll find those three elements.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your passion. Kind of as we come to the close, a couple questions, kind of real nuts and bolts is, how long does it take? How much does it cost? Temp and marketing, kind of and then people can reach out to you if they want to get more information.
Well, yeah, so it's mikeulmer.com, ULMER.com. It depends. It's like how long is a piece of rope? If you want me to sort of to write your book. So we did a book for the great entrepreneur named Ron Foxcroft. Ron, you know those really loud whistles you hear at football games, NFL games? Ron invented those. So it takes, if you're my client, it takes you about 8 hours and you have a book within 3 or 4 months. Yeah. And when I say when you have a book, you have a file, you have a cover, a professional design, professional cover, professional copy edit, everything is ready to go. You just put it up on Amazon and you're good. So that process costs $22,500 US. But if you want to write your own book and you want us to coach the hell out of you and find that thing, that one is $6,000 US. And that's that, we call that the 100 days. We don't want people that are going to lollygag around. We're going to take your money up front, and in 100 days, you're going to pay us more. We want you to get this done in 100 days. So if you want to call us every day, you call us every day. There's 2 coaches. One is me, and we'll get this thing done.
Yeah. And for all the audience out there, let's thank Mike for coming onto the show. He's got really extensive background in book writing. Certainly reach out to him. Check out his social media. It's really a lot of good work, and reach out to him as well. All of these links will be in the show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Christopher, thanks for having me. Great time. I really enjoyed it.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.